You've made it to our final stop. We set up chairs at this location because they're a reasonable distance from the swans. If you or your dog gets too close to these majestic birds, they may take flight, which is quite an event, as Jim explains.
Before they take off, a group of trumpeter swans, they will usually turn into the wind, and then you see these movements in their neck where they sort of bob their heads up and down all together, and then you know they're lining up to take off. And then they start basically running across the water and flapping their wings. They need that extra little bit of push to get them going. And so you hear this huge slopping sound as their feet slap the water. I mean, their feet are as big as your hand. So they slap, 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 and they're flying along, and lots of calling, and then they're airborne. It's a sound and a sight you'll never, ever forget.
As memorable as it is to see a group of swans taking off, it's not something you want to provoke. Remember how heavy swans are? It takes them about 100 meters to get airborne, and as you might imagine, that burns a lot of energy. It's also time away from feeding. Even worse is if the swans leave McClintock Bay prematurely before they are well fed and rested. It would be like us leaving on our road trip with half a tank of gas. Maybe we have just enough fuel to get to the next gas station, but if the pump is broken, or for the swans, if the next lake is frozen, that's a bad situation. Yukon Wildlife Viewing hosts a celebration of swans every April to give people like you the opportunity to witness this extraordinary congregation of birds. It's estimated that between 5,000 and 13,000 trumpeter swans stop at Swan Haven every spring. There's another reason we call our festival a celebration. Trumpeter swans are a conservation success story. Their comeback tale is fit for Hollywood.
Back in the 1900s, swans were hunted to near extinction because, it's a really big bird, a lot of meat on that, really fantastic for, if you're in the woods and you're really hungry. However, that meant the population started to decline a lot.
The subsistence hunting of swans by indigenous people in North America has taken place since time immemorial. But the arrival of fur traders and settlers with firearms, as well as commercial demand in the 16 to 1800s, decimated swan numbers. Swan feathers were used to adorn hats and for writing quills, and swan skins were made for items such as makeup applicators. Extinction was a serious concern, and people were noticing. International conservation efforts started ramping up in the mid-1900s. Hunting restrictions and habitat protections were put in place, and programs were created to manually reintroduce swans to former breeding areas. These efforts paid off.
Trumpeter swans are a conservation success story because they've gone from being a species that was considered a species at risk and officially listed under the Species at Risk Act to being a group of species that are above their population objectives.
North America's trumpeter swan population increased by more than 6% a year since 1968, and now there are over 60,000. Their successful rebound indicates conservation efforts can work. Species threatened by extinction can be saved if we're willing to put in the effort. Swan Haven is a 5-star location for swans to rest, feed, and be safe on their long migration. Let's keep it that way. Please watch these magnificent birds from a distance. This concludes our walk. Enjoy the view here for as long as you like. It can be truly magical. When you're ready, return on the trail the way you came. Remember to visit the Swan Haven Interpretive Center as well. There's lots more to discover inside. For more information about a celebration of swans, go to yukon.ca/swans. This tour was produced by the Government of Yukon's Wildlife Viewing Program. Content was developed by Carrie McClelland, Scott Cameron, and myself, Karen McCall. Information was also gathered from the Marsh Lake Cooperative Local Area Plan. Thank you to Margaret Campbell of the Canadian Wildlife Service and retired biologist Jim Hawkins for your contributions to this tour. The sound files of the swans are from xenocanto.org in the Creative Commons. The trumpeter swan audio of their call and taking off are from Logan McLeod, sound file XC433817. The Tundra Swan audio is from Paul Marvin, sound file XC384980. These files are found at xenocanto.org. Thanks again for listening. If you liked this tour, please tell a friend. It's available free throughout the entire month of April. Happy birding.